Hello, adventurers. My name's Tyler.
And I'm Richard.
On today's episode, we're talking about Critical Role's Blunder Down Under. Welcome to True Strike.
Howdy, folks, and welcome back to the show.
Crikey.
Crikey, you say? Why is that?
Our good friends down in the Down Under, hi, Dak, may have received early copies of Daggerheart.
Lucky them, question mark?
Yeah. To anyone screaming at us at the top of their lungs off the jump, Darrington Press, Critical Role. Yes, we know.
Yeah.
Darrington Press.
Yeah.
However, wager a lot of people out there don't. So,
yeah, which will be a bit of a topic of discussion here.
Yeah, because they should.
Yeah, because they should know. So yeah, we got the news, as anybody who else has been following this, that people in Australia started to receive things early. Actually, we talked about this before they ever got to receive them, because you saw a Reddit post where somebody said, hey, I got tracking information for my collector's edition for Daggerheart. What do you think this is? And everybody in the thread, and including myself, was just along the lines of, oh, that's just in the warehouse.
They made the label.
They made the label. It hasn't actually shipped yet.
Yeah.
There is no possible way that they're actually going to receive these things. At worst, I figured they were essentially getting stuff to hubs and to warehouses in advance of tariffs. To try and avoid having to do any kind of weird, like, oh, sorry, we're gonna have to charge you a little bit extra more if you want to get your stuff.
Yeah, so they were, potentially shipping out to Australia and America and everywhere, because all the other countries were all just sitting here. For all we know, it's in our warehouses right now.
And it probably is, because, that's how this stuff works, is it'll come into the States where it'll hit the distribution centers first, and it will predictably sit there for a little while before they can get a chance to roll it out to either, friendly local game stores or to the end user. So it's not uncommon that stuff would be hitting the distribution centers right now, considering the release is somewhat imminent.
Yep.
But it wasn't just a case of they made a label when people started receiving big purple boxes in the mail.
Yeah, beautiful, wonderful, the best purple boxes. So April 9th, if you're listening to this, actually, by the time you're listening to this at all, it's been a little bit. Australia started getting their orders, and lucky them. That's awesome. If you have it, congratulations. Please don't spoil anything, I think is what they've asked. We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
Immediately, at least one person put a unboxing and flipping through the book and stuff on YouTube, but I believe that's already removed.
Yeah, which is unsurprising.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually, one day later, I have it pulled up on my device here. Darcy, representing Critical Role and Darrington Press, put out a post on their Discord. I believe it also made its way to Reddit and stuff too. But
that's where folks. I saw it was on Reddit.
Hi, folks. Guess what we did? Those of you in Australia who have received your Daggerheart copies early, that was an error in shipping, and we apologize for the mistake. We have an email coming your way soon with more details, but for right now, per our community gaming license, please refrain from talking about the unreleased content in this Discord and in public spaces, and refrain from making public video and photography, as it is a pre-release item. So treat it as an early seeker for you. It's a great time to start reading and getting your group together. We hope you love it as much as we do, and we ask you to help keep it spoiler-free for the community until the official launch on May 20th.
Mm-hmm. Now, I assume that email was a, hey, this obviously was not intended. We would prefer that you take things down that you have posted of your own accord. And for future, do not post anything. If you or if you haven't posted anything, don't plan on posting anything. If you do, however, then we will probably have to involve people to pull this down, because it is technically not street date yet.
Yeah.
Even though they are at fault, they can still do cease and desists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that it was probably not aggressive. I mean, we're not dealing with Hasbro here.
No Pinkertons
No
involved.
Pinkertons involved.
Not yet.
Not that we know of.
Not that we know
I
of.
mean, that guy who had the video, the YouTube video, it's just gone.
We don't know what happened to them.
He hasn't posted a video since then. Has he? I don't know. But as far as we know, there haven't been anybody knocking on doors. I don't know if Australia has Pinkertons. Did they just open a window and slide a snake or a tarantula in your house? They don't actually have to have an armed force to take anything back.
I think I remember, and this is absolutely nothing I looked into at all other than one person writing a comment, and it's that they have pretty strict laws about this sort of thing anyway. Yeah. So if that is the case, maybe it just kind of self-governs.
Yeah, self-governs. Well, that was going to say, the one thing I could say here is it probably couldn't have happened to a nicer group of people.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, this is probably the best case scenario for...
They're so isolated too.
Darrington Press is that Australians, probably Canada would have been...
Well, I was going to say, if it ended up in Canada, even Americans would have just crossed the border.
Would have crossed the border and taken it, yeah.
Just taken it by force.
Yeah. It couldn't have happened to a better group, because I think that, and when it did happen and we were like, oh, it's Australia, I was like, okay, well then it's probably going to stay secret mostly. One, just because obviously they did some steps to try and mitigate anything getting out, but also because I truly believe that this happened in the United States.
Oh my goodness,
there would be
me?
PDF scans
Absolutely.
already up literally everywhere.
Day one.
And there would be nothing but 4chan and Reddit posts just detailing the entire book, which we don't have that. It's not on the internet right now because, presumably people are being nice about this and actually following some rules. So I guess that's the silver lining there, is it was a good group of people that got it. Yeah.
Even with that aside, man, do I wish we had this book.
A month early? A month early. I mean, obviously we wouldn't post anything about it or anything like that. But man, to be able to read it and have it and start playing some games in it.
Yeah.
Right?
Just fully ready.
Yeah, closed doors. It would be great.
Australian content creators, you just struck gold.
Yeah.
You just have this ready for street date.
Exactly. As soon as street dates hit,
all
Australian
the content you could
creators
load up
have
on.
Literally everything. They can preload videos at this point.
Absolutely.
Recording everything. Day one drops full on reviews of everything and oh yeah, we finished our first campaign.
Yeah. Right. Oh my God.
Yeah. On the day of release. Interesting. I mean, do you think that because of that, there is going to be a bigger surge of content on day one because a small section has it? I mean, content creators in general, you have to look at the subsection of content creators that are going to be doing Daggerheart content and then pare that down to strictly just Australia.
Right.
So
this is where it gets funky, right? Because outside of Michael, Dad as a gamer, I don't know, or I don't follow any other Australian channels. Obviously they exist, and I think the ones that, because like you said, you got to pare it down. Out of the ones that do make content, are they making Daggerheart content?
Yeah.
Did they pre-order this book? Because it's not like they can go out and get it now. They had to have already.
Yes, they had to have already had their pre-order in.
I definitely think you're gonna see more from those people, but is that gonna even? Us not being there, will our American YouTube algorithm feed us that sort of thing? It's, I don't know. I don't think it's going to blow up. Well, I think we're more likely to still see content from the creators that Daggerheart seeds PDFs and copies to.
True. Yeah. But I was going to say, even the video that you saw, that gentleman was not like what I would refer to, or you would refer to as like a Daggerheart / Critical Role enthusiast, right? They didn't appear to know what they were getting, right? They knew that they were getting. They mentioned some edition,
things, right? About the blank maps. Were oh, why are the maps blank? And we know that that's because you want your players to name what's a town? What town are you from? What's a local area Go ahead and name it for me. Describe it for me, and then your GM will take the map back and build out the world based on input from the players. And for someone to be doing an unboxing and not recognize what some of this stuff means, you realize they probably have been following this playtest to playtest.
Yeah,
but they were excited enough to drop in some money for a collector's edition.
Yes, but then I think that kind of speaks to the like how when you start to pare it down, like how many creators are going to jump on this train and have this stuff.
Yep.
I think even if it's just one or two, I think it could definitely help that first day hype train a little bit.
Anyone, even if you're a smaller channel, if you've got this book, if you can go ahead and start loading up some content, make some gold, like Richard said, see if you can get through a campaign or a few games, you're going to have a great jump start on competition. If nothing else, even if, let's say, some of the bigger channels out there, get seeded some stuff and they make their content, okay, great. Join them. Be there with them, because channels that aren't getting this ahead of time won't be able to be locked and loaded for, embargo lift.
Yeah, exactly.
And, for all we know, at least at this time, is embargo, lifting on the 20th? Or will it lift a little early?
Yeah, are they going to do anything to adjust?
I don't know. We know with 5th edition 2024, blah, 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 with D&D, they popped some of that a little early. So it got really weird with like the pre-order on D&D Beyond with the Dungeon Master tier, and then you'd have it 2 weeks early if you pre-order it. But then content creators had it even earlier than that. So if you're in Australia and you have this loaded up, maybe you're good to go, but can't put it out until the 20th. But maybe content creators that get seated early are aside from that. And I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see when we get closer to it. Because right now, I'm hearing a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah.
From Darrington Press.
Nothing from Darrington Press, and nothing from like a lot of the stuff that got leaked. So presumably whatever email they sent out, and in general, what people have been, told.
Yeah.
Are pretty tight-lipped, and even you said the Reddit thread discussion is gone. Right, completely gone. The main discussion thread, people are talking about, I got it in, and posting pictures of it. It's just wiped. It's gone.
Yeah,
and there are no additional discussions, right?
It's
very sparse.
Very sparse, and they're very, very generic, or not spoiler, but good information. One of those I screenshotted here because, hey, listeners, this matters to me, so I assume it matters to you if you're listening to this podcast. Hi. The limited edition cards are 64 by 89 millimeters.
Oh, yeah, somebody measured them.
Someone else went through and measured with calipers to get the exact measurements. They got 63.5 millimeters by 89.5 millimeters. So round that up at your 64 by 90. Hey, solid. Pre-order your sleeves if you want to sleeve up your cards. There you go. Just a little PSA.
It's good information.
I agree.
Not spoilery.
Not spoilery, but information I wish we had from more official sources.
Yeah, no. It is interesting how little we've heard about Daggerheart.
Yeah.
Since what, Christmas?
Yeah, they did the Christmas one shot, and really not much else. I know, what was it? On April 16th, the Darrington Press team did like a half-hour live stream, vertical shot on their cell phone sort of thing, little tiny Q&A. Not a ton came from that other than, some things we want to do in the future. Not a lot of like hard promises though. So, hey, that's something. Now, is that something? Does that exist because, the team sitting in the room was like, hey, wow, people are talking about how we're not talking about this game.
We should be talking
we should talk about this game. Maybe answer some questions very vaguely. But also, they're the air of secrecy right now. Because the last time Matt and Spencer went on a video together, they had some similar questions of future content and things to look forward to down the road, or roadmap. And they said a ton of nothing. It was a lot of, hey, we have ideas for classes and frameworks and things like the item, weapons, items, whatever. And we're going to wait until release to see what the player feedback is to know what to work on next or put out next. So are they loading the chamber with, are they getting the production pipeline going with this content, or is it just a whiteboard with ideas?
I would have to venture a guess it's a whiteboard
right
now.
That worries me.
Because I kind of get where they're coming from.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Because they're coming off, like we're gearing up, right?
Yes.
For their initial release.
Uh-huh.
Now, where do you put your focus? Do you put your focus into new classes, new species, or do you put it into frameworks? Do you put it on across everything? Do you put it towards like focusing on weak points that people will find in your game when they actually start playing it in earnest?
You're talking about like an errata?
So
Because
not an errata,
the books,
not an
went gold.
errata, but how to move forward to like really know your roadmap.
Sure.
And you have to think this isn't
It's not a giant team.
Hasbro, right? So it's going to be a little bit harder for them to conceptualize, I think, a roadmap for a groundbreaking new TTRPG without knowing what is expected of them and what the people actually want.
Right.
So I think it would be kind of foolish to like already be in a production mode for purchasable content just yet. I think that this book needs to be released first, and then they'll have, within a couple of months, a really good idea of where the mindset of the players is at and what it is that they're looking for. And then you take all of this good whiteboard idea and you jump into production mode with it. And then you can start coming up with a roadmap, because then I think you have a good idea of where you're going to go.
Right. I would like to see, and maybe they are, I would like to see if, like, hypothetically, they know these are all the things people are going to want, right? The little bullet points that we hit, the things that are on the whiteboard. What order? What's the importance? So how dense does something need to be? Does it need to be a full release? Is it a digital only thing? Is this a demi-plane, drive-through RPG, PDF, whatever? I would think it was cool if they hit gold. They're not just sitting around like, all right, now we got to wait to see what people think. If maybe they are working on some drive-through RPG PDF style frameworks even. You don't have to make like a big sale thing. It could be hey, Daggerheart launch, here's 3 free frameworks, or here's 5 and it's $10 or whatever, you know what I mean? And just to have something. I'm worried we're going to go 2 months of them deciding what to do, and then another 6 months to a year before we ever see any of that. And it's going to feel like we're being sparsely drip-fed content in a world where people are like starving.
What I think is going to happen is they're going to do this major release. They're going to wait 2 months and see where everything is. This is all just, numbers.
100%. Yep.
They're going to see where everything is. And then they're going to start production on the first real, like, quote unquote expansion.
Sure.
But in that meantime, right? In that meantime, I think you are going to see the stuff that is easy to just roll out.
Right.
Because when you think about it, stuff like what you just talked about, like smaller, like one-shot style frameworks and stuff like that, that's not like super high, takes 4 months to produce.
Yep.
This is stuff that can be produced very quickly with good artists, which they have, good writing teams,
but art takes time,
which they have. All takes time, but it's all stuff that could be done very quickly and could be drip fed to keep people coming back and keep people engaging with this without it being like a whole brand new book release right off the jump.
Right.
Because that's the question, is realistically, if when Daggerheart gets released, are you expecting yearly book releases from them? Are you expecting more than that? Less than that?
It depends how serious they want to take this, right? So if they are actually hoping to put themselves in conversation with D&D and Pathfinder, I think yearly is a minimum. And that's not even trying to keep up with Wizards of the Coast. I think that's trying to keep up with Paizo. Because Pathfinder is ridiculous. Between Pathfinder and Starfinder, they've got their monthly zines where you're getting, monthly, like, it's like taking I forget the exact terminology they use for it because we don't play Pathfinder here. But every month you're getting part of a campaign. And they break that out, and it's like a subscription service where you can have it sent to you, and every month you're working through this new thing. They're also putting out supplemental books and full campaigns and everything else, and it's a sea of content, and it's for 2 systems at the same time. And that's crazy, because D&D is not doing that. Paizo is, or with Pathfinder and Starfinder.
Yeah.
And for Daggerheart to feel like a real game, I think once a year... I know they're brand new and they got to build up to this and everything else. Once a year feels like a minimum. I'm not looking for once every month or anything like that.
Okay. It's interesting because I think I feel differently.
Yeah.
And I think that if I step back, so I can't speak to Pathfinder because we don't play Pathfinder and I don't own a lot of Pathfinder. I just see man, they go ham.
It's so much.
That's just what they do.
So much. It's awesome.
That's just what they do, and they're trying to produce a lot of content. And then I look at Dungeons and Dragons, and I look at the last 2 years of content.
Getting like something every quarter.
Yeah, and I look at the content, and then I try and think back of how much of that content we have utilized, and how much of that content we have looked at and decided that we didn't care about, or even people that we know whether or not they cared about or utilized that content.
Depends who you're asking about, who we know, though, because we know some people who read every single book every single time.
Exactly. But at what point do you feel flooded by content that you don't need and are not going to utilize? And at what point does that start to affect you as far as like your desire to keep up with the Joneses, right? So would it bother me if Daggerheart did a major book release right now and then didn't release another book for a year and a half or 2 years, like a major book, right?
Yeah.
But instead drip fed smaller things like frameworks that were like piecemeal things that were much, much cheaper. Now, is this a business model that works for them? I guess it really depends on who you ask. They're not starved for money, right? As far as we know. I mean, they're still making money. They still have like money-making ventures. But is it necessary to keep up with the Joneses, to have a book release at this 1 year cadence to survive for them? Or can they have a system that is good enough to stand on a singular book with just things like additional cards or additional frameworks that are not whole books, but just smaller supplemental materials?
So that's where it gets interesting.
And it wouldn't make me mad if that was the case.
Okay. So if we're going to be talking about things like them putting out booster packs and things like that, which we've brought up in the past as a potential, then yeah, they could totally space things out a little bit more. I think 2 years is really pushing it. Unless you're talking about a series like, hey, booster packs for cards, that's new classes, man. Like you're talking like once you're adding like a new class in the it doesn't have to be a book release, in the, idea of like new cards, like a domain expansion. Now you're talking new multi-classes, like everything kind of expands a little bit. And something like that could be your, once every 3-4 months kind of release. If in 3 months after release. That would almost feel too soon. 6 months after release, we get like a new class / like domain. Amazing. I just don't want this to end up like Candela Obscura, where there's a big push out the jump, and it's kind of this cool thing with Illuminated Worlds. Look at the system. You're going to see other games using it too, which I don't believe we have yet. And then, over a year after launch, it just doesn't really feel like a thing anymore. They're doing, what is it, Thresher? They're starting that up soon, and that's Candela Obscura. Cool. I'm glad they're still making content about it, but I'm not thinking about Candela Obscura a lot. And I hope I'm thinking about, Daggerheart quite often.
Yeah.
And granted, it's funny because when you talk about game systems like this, right? With we could be playing a single campaign for a year, for months, over a year maybe. Yeah. And I do believe, we'll see when we really get to it, I do believe these Daggerheart campaigns are going to end up being shorter than we're used to with these D&D campaigns. Just the nature of a level 1 to 10 versus a level 1 to 20. And combat's going faster, which makes, if combats and things like that move faster and smoother, I think storylines and beats will go faster, which makes me think the games will just wrap up sooner. Because in D&D, we've had combats last 2 games, which means 6 hours.
Yeah. I don't know that I agree, though. Because...
How?
Well, because you're saying that it's going to go faster just based on combats going quicker.
Yes.
And yes, in some cases. In some cases. However, look at how long it's taken us to do Strahd.
Right.
It's taken us quite a while to do Strahd. We have not had
a ton of combats.
We have not had a ton of combats.
Right.
Yet it is still taking us a long time. We are not level 20 either.
Right.
We're 7 now? So the level argument for saying that Daggerheart games will be shorter doesn't hold water for me. because it took us forever to get to level 7 in Strahd. So it still is going to take, I mean, for the right group, but it will still take a long time for, I think, for Daggerheart games to go. I think you can have shorter games. You can also do that in Dungeons and Dragons.
Sure.
I don't think that it will be de facto shorter games just because of the way the level structure is, or because combat is a little bit more streamlined. And in fact, I'm not so convinced that combat will be faster.
Really? Is
Yeah.
that because of the flipping back and forth?
So
You think that's going to slow it down?
I don't think it's gonna. Well, I don't think it would slow it down, but I think it's probably going to be pretty close in 1-to-1. And I think that I think you're gaining time in combat in Dungeons and Dragons because of basically analysis paralysis, like decision making,
absolutely.
right? And you're going to back off on that a little bit on Daggerheart.
You also don't have to worry about initiative off the jump.
You're not worrying about initiative off the jump. So all those things are making combat in Dungeons and Dragons take a little bit longer. But when you get to Daggerheart, I believe that there's going to be a trade-off. So you're shaving off that time. However, you're adding back in time with the flopping around and also the thematic nature of combat in
You think people are going to spend more time
People are going to spend more
moves?
time describing their character actions and describing what happens, because I think it's going to be a more theming type game. And I think you're going to make up the lost time in there, and combats might be a little bit faster, but I think it might only be marginally faster. So I don't know that I exactly agree with the idea that Daggerheart is always going to be shorter games, unless you're specifically designing your frameworks to be short and making sure that you're playing one shots because you're interested in doing a lot of different frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be a wash.
We'll know soon enough.
Yeah. I think that might be a wash.
Yeah.
Going back to that, the idea that you said where, you would think one book release at minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So what are you expecting out of that book? So Daggerheart releases.
And when I said that, I wasn't talking about like supplemental card packs and stuff like that.
No, yeah.
You brought that into the discussion. That has changed things a little bit.
This changed things a little bit. So Daggerheart releases. It is 1 year after release.
Yes.
And the book is ready for pickup at your FLGS.
Mm-hmm.
What are you expecting to see when you open up that book?
So if I'm taking supplemental things out of the discussion, if I'm talking my 1 year, which is my initial statement, I am thinking at least a couple more. So you've got the different domains that essentially are making like your subclasses for your classes and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting at least one more for each, built-in class, maybe a new class, a group of 5 or so frameworks, and a assortment of new weapons and armor. That's what I'm expecting. Because as is right now, all the content is in one book. We're not looking at, and monsters, the adversaries. Sorry, that's the other part of it. Which at that point, you can, since you're going to spend a little less, of the book, you're not going to be teaching people the rules all over again. And you're not going to be going through as deep on every class. That's more book if you're doing a similar page count to fill out with adversaries, locations, and gear. The only issue I see with them putting all the game in one book out the jump, which I love, this isn't a negative, really, is that they are limited. And how many adversaries are we getting in this book? And I know you can skin things, you can make things. It's tabletop. You can do with anything. But in a world where I want cool art for every monster, and I want them to tell me some cool ideas, and especially if they're going to make frameworks and then creatures to match those frameworks too, and new cool gear that they've balanced and they've done. This is, you're buying supplemental content for a reason. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
Now, if they want to break that out and give me chunks of, hey, here's a cool oh man, that'd be cool. Like in 5-6 months, even, they give me, here's a new framework and here's gear to match it. And here's a new subclass to, Seraph that fits really well in this world. I would eat that up. And that could be a smaller digital purchase. Or are they going to want to put that in stores, which I imagine they will. The bigger it is, the more likely it's going to go to your local game store. Because how many people are going to be doing this online? I know they're using Demiplane, but what are the numbers of Demiplane compared to a D&D Beyond? And even D&D Beyond, is D&D Beyond sales similar to physical sales. Have we made that switch yet? I don't know off the top of my head. What's that going to look like for Daggerheart? Have you pre-ordered it from Demiplane? Because I haven't. I've pre-ordered the physical.
Yeah, I have not.
Will I get it on Demiplane? Yes, at some point, absolutely. But that's not my. That's not where I'm focusing because I like the hands-on nature of the cards of this game.
Of course, yeah.
So, and the physical edition pre-order coming with the PDF. Okay, I'm gonna have my digital version. Okay, so if they start putting things out digital only, yes, I will buy them. But now I'm splitting up where my resources are. So at that point, do I need bigger releases for them to justify shipping it to stores? I don't know. I just ran around your question.
Well, it's just interesting because I think that everybody just assumes that they need to follow the footsteps of the giants that are in front of them, i.e. Pathfinder and Dungeons & Dragons, which have a very stringent way of doing things, which is this is a core book and we are going to release other books, and we're just going to release books and you got to buy these books. D&D in particular is like, okay, every quarter we're releasing this book.
D&D's modeled
and this book
absolutely,
and this book,
100%. Yeah.
And they are just flooding you with content.
It's too much.
And as I'm saying, you get to a point where possibly it's too much. So do they need to follow in those footsteps, or can they do something a little bit more freeform and find success in it?
I think Paizo's models are awesome. Not saying anyone else can like even keep up with that.
Yeah.
But those little like monthly things are so cool. Like if I was running Pathfinder, I would absolutely subscribe to that if I wasn't like making up homebrew games and things like that, because you just get enough, right? You just get enough to like have games for the month. And then you prep all that, you learn it all, you run those games, and by the time you're done finishing those, guess what? Your next one's come in, and now you're prepping new book. And it gives, they don't have to finish it all at once and to make these big releases. They can just push these things out. And when I interviewed Rue, they said that every now and then they do have to push it a week or two or whatever, and they're very transparent about it, and they let people know that, hey, there's going to be a week-long delay, everything's going to get pushed back a little bit. Okay, that's fine. If they could do something like that, neat. I don't think their team is huge for Daggerheart right now. I'm wondering if that will expand. I'm assuming it will have to do with how the sales go.
I think it depends on how the sales go, yeah.
Which I have a question about that in a moment. So I think, there's a lot riding on this initial push that will determine what the cadence looks like. Do I want D&D cadence? No, it's too much.
Yeah, I don't think I want D&D cadence.
I would like to see something at least once a year to remind people that it's a thing. And if you are looking for a game at your local game store and you don't know what Daggerheart is, the more Daggerheart you see, the more likely you are to not glance over it.
Yeah.
If it's a single book on the shelf and you're not looking for it and the art doesn't catch you, even though it's gorgeous, there's a lot of other options, and the other options have more books.
It's interesting because, like I said, it's the whole, like, do they follow the same kind of thing that those two do, or do they something different? And I think one of the ones I like the most as far as like release and how they do things actually comes back to Morkborg, which is interesting.
Oh, the zines?
Exactly.
That would be awesome.
Because Morkborg has your basic book, right?
Yeah.
That you can go out and you can buy. Okay. And then they have a couple of different skins on that, like Cyborg and Pirate Borg and Orcborg, right? So these are the base game, but essentially hammered into a framework, using air quotes, that kind of steer it into a very specific direction that is, its own thematic location, essentially.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, you're getting smaller zine style releases, right? And in some of those, you have, some of them are so small that they're just a group of items. Some of them are so small that they are just a single one-shot adventure. And some of them are more than that. So like a couple of the ones that I've bought, like Heretic, for example, is 4 new classes that you can play. I think 3 actual one-shots that you can play, a couple of NPCs with stores, maps and locations. That zine was like $25. Still amazing artwork, amazing production value, smaller release.
Yeah.
And if you look at what Stockholm does and what they've done with Morkborg and releases and stuff like that, they're not releasing a major book every single year. they're doing small releases
Yeah.
that are little bits that add into this game. And before you know it, you have such a wealth of stuff to build off of to play. And you don't even have to buy it all. You can piecemeal the stuff that's interesting to you, right? So I haven't bought all of Morkborg,
No, of course.
obviously.
Yeah.
But I've bought the little bits that interest me. So a couple of one-shots here and there that we've played, and then some class options that I wanted to give you guys in games and stuff like that. So I was able to pick those couple of zines out, buy those, and now I have those for me. And this is not a formula that a lot of companies use. And Morkborg is not a gigantic company either.
Mhm.
So it's got to be easier to do something like this. I think that it would be very interesting to see Darrington Press do something similar. And it would be very easy to do too. And it doesn't have to be zines, you know, it could just be smaller books, stuff like that. But not following that whole, like, we've got to release a book of content every single year, and instead piecemealing little things out here and there
That'd be
that are
fine.
options for people to use.
As long as we're getting something.
Yeah, I think is possibly a really good idea. And I can't say that I wouldn't see them doing it, because it's something like that is a lot easier to accomplish for a smaller company. You know, obviously it works for something like Morkborg, and I can see Darrington making it work too.
I do wonder if we're going to end up finding out at one point or the other whether the cards, the physical cards, hurts or, you know, helps them. Because I think as far as playing the game, being a new player and things like that, or a veteran player or anything, the cards is awesome as far as setting up my character sheet and picking up my domain abilities. And, oh, these are the abilities I'm going to have on me, and these ones are going to be in the vault. And you like physically have the cards, and I just like the tactile feel there. Sorry. But when new releases come out, I don't want to print and play, you know, a digital only character or domain or whatever, when all of my other cards are these premium edition sleeved cards, and then I've got some, you know, basic printer paper, black and white because I ran out of color on my printer, you know, cards. So is that going to delay expansions at all? You think, because they're going to have to ship all this to the, you know, card manufacturer,
and
then
they're definitely
bundle that stuff in.
Yeah.
And
But I think that had to have been a conscious design choice, and it had to have been a if then kind of a conversation internally. Like, if
Worth
we're
it to
going
them.
to do this, that means that we have to be behind this idea of cards, which is going to make us have to go through more production than
I was gonna say,
any other
what does
company.
this look like for production? Because it's not a Magic where you're printing cards. Hey, here's our cards, send to the printer, boom, we got cards, ship the cards. You have to ship and print the cards and the book, and they go together.
Yeah.
Or so it does feel like they're going to be doing double duty to get out any kind of expansions.
Yeah, which is why I think that it might be easier for smaller piecemeal releases,
Frameworks, absolutely,
rather than gigantic yearly releases. And like I said, I can't say that I'm against that idea.
Well, when it comes to, you say smaller releases, when it comes to things like domains and anything that uses a card, right? Class domains, etc., that yearly release might actually be better, because then it's probably easier to allocate that time with the, you know, manufacturer for knocking out a bunch of cards all at once versus little bits at a time here and there through the year. What do I know when it comes to card manufacturing? Nothing.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's something that's easier to organize as far as getting all your ducks together in one pond and then shipping that pond to all the countries around the world. But frameworks, things like that, absolutely. You could probably shoot that out as a zine or digital only or whatever you need to. I'm also wondering, are they going to try to keep up their playtest, you know, style like they did for the game so far? Because I would love that. If, you know, in 8 months or something, hey guys, we're playtesting in this new class. It's going to be available for 1 month. Give us your feedback. Because they, like, there's no way when we had the first playtest that they weren't already working on the second version.
Yeah.
Because we were like, all right, here's our feedback. And they were like, great, here's the next version.
Yeah, here's
we were
the
like,
next version.
But this doesn't take into account any of our feedback. And they're like, that'll come in next. And you're like, but wait, what? They're like, oh,
It's completely different.
We had 3 ideas for this character. You're playtesting all of them. And then for the 4th version, it'll be the amalgamation of all of your ideas. So like, oh, I see what you did. I hope they keep that up. I miss when D&D Beyond had the digital version of playtest characters.
Yeah.
So I hope Demiplan keeps that up. I hope they keep it up. I just don't want to see this go the way of Candela. I guess at the end of the day is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I'm genuinely really worried. And what has me so worried about that right now, because I did not feel this way 2 months ago, but I do now, is because we've heard so little about this.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Is the root of your fear the radio silence?
Yes, absolutely.
And that's we're doing so much speculation because that's all we have.
Station. We'll have concrete information in a month.
Well, yeah, we'll have concrete information on the base game. Hopefully, we'll have some more concrete information on the future of the game.
If we don't start hearing about Daggerheart every week for like the two weeks leading up to it minimum, I want to say in the next like week or two, we better be hearing about this game. But if May comes around and we're not hearing about Daggerheart every week, did we even talk about the children game that's going on for Critical Role right now?
And that shocked
Sam's
me.
game?
The Wildmount Wildlings. I went into this expecting a Daggerheart game, and as they were going through and introducing things, I still thought that it was going to be a Daggerheart game until I started seeing stats pop up on the board in the bottom left. And I was like, that doesn't look like Daggerheart. That looks like 5e.
Yeah.
And then was shocked when they started rolling D20s. And it was a Dungeons & Dragons setting.
We talked a little bit off camera before, literally like right when we hit go on the camera. The only thing we can come up with is that there must be a legal thing, either with the Wildmount setting official WotC release. Maybe they have to release so much like Wildmount content, or maybe they are locked, like that world and those characters are locked into the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons system. Otherwise, why?
Yeah, it has to be a contractually obligated thing. Otherwise, they're missing a huge opportunity to build excitement.
Only other thing I can think of would be just straight up, they don't see it the same way we do. And those characters, Yasha and Bo, and Veth for that matter, those characters are D&D characters, and they live in that world. And when they make their new characters, they will live in the world of Daggerheart. Then, we're speculating.
Yeah.
We do not know for a fact that campaign 4 is going to take place in Daggerheart. It better.
It better take place in Daggerheart. I will be so upsetty spaghetti.
Yes.
If this does not take place in the Daggerheart system.
Like, they need to believe in this game as much as we believe in this game.
That's my thing, is that like at some point it feels like the fans are more hype for Daggerheart because of the fact that the fans are the only ones talking about it.
Dude, we cover this game like as often as we can, and even then, I noticed a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that Menagerie Part 3 had released like 6 months ago.
Yeah,
we watched when they did their like one shot of Menagerie, and then the Menagerie Returns. They did a freaking Part 3, and we missed it.
Yeah,
because there was no hype.
Because there was absolutely no hype around it.
And then I watched it,
and the numbers
it's fantastic.
Show that there's no hype on it.
Literally a third of the views on the third episode as the first one.
And I don't think it's because it's bad content.
No, it's great content. It's fantastic content.
They just aren't pushing it the way that I think they need to. And the hype isn't there like it should be. And I don't know if that's a little bit of the cadence of hype. So they've had a little bit here and they're not keeping it up. They're not keeping the hype train moving, or they're just not doing enough. They don't seem to have the same confidence in their own game as the fans do. Or they can't, they have to do this Dungeons and Dragons content because of contracts.
Yeah.
And maybe that's real. I don't understand how it could not be that explanation.
Teeny tiny spoiler for the second episode of the whole like camp thing. This is a spoiler to you. You haven't gotten this far yet. Yeah. All right. Skip ahead like 20, 30 seconds if you don't want the tiniest of spoilers. Just close your ears. There's
la 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 la. Oh, that doesn't work for you, does it?
There is a moment where they're talking about a card game. And how cool it is and how wonderful the worlds are. And like how unique it is with the mechanics and everything. And I'm like, oh, they're gonna say it's called, because there's like, what's that game called, Brennan? And I'm like, oh, he's gonna say Daggerheart. He says poker. And I'm like, come on. It's right there in front of you. Screaming. Screaming to avoid.
I'm still enjoying the show. It's funny.
Oh,
it's
it is
hilarious.
funny.
It's really, really good.
They're all great.
Everybody's great. I was just very disappointed when it wasn't Daggerheart, and I think that it would have been even better had it been Daggerheart, and I would have been way more engaged in it had it been Daggerheart, because I think you said this at one point too, when I was all like, I'm disappointed that this isn't Daggerheart, and you were all like, do you know how closely I would have listened to this episode multiple times if it had been Daggerheart?
Yeah.
And I know you would have, absolutely, because
Tear
you've
it
been
apart.
picking it apart,
Yeah.
trying to find out,
What
like,
changed?
wait, what has changed?
What's the
What
new
rule
rules?
is slightly different? Because you did the same thing during the Christmas episode.
Yeah.
And they missed a big opportunity there, and I don't know if it's because they missed it because they had to. It is just
I can
disappointing.
only justify it to myself as they had to.
It is just disappointing. And they kind of did the same thing with Candela. They just didn't hype it up very much.
They're like not even talking like at the beginning. Oh, sponsors for the episode and Hit Point Press or Humblewood, because they have a Humblewood game coming up soon that sounds really cool and stuff like that too. And they never once are like, hey, and here's your last chance to pre-order Daggerheart unless you live in Australia because you already have it. Like, also, if you live in Australia, can you still pre-order Daggerheart?
Yeah, can you still pre-order?
Have you missed
Does
that?
it have like a delivers tomorrow when you go to the cart?
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, I mean, they dedicate like 15 minutes at the beginning of every show to talk about merch that's for sale on their website.
Mm-hmm.
They don't ever bring up pre-orders for Daggerheart.
No, not now, at least.
Yeah, and or like talking about like just saying like, oh hey, by the way, also this date is coming up. Daggerheart's getting released. Be hype about it.
Nothing is going to push this game harder than Critical Role. In theory, nothing would push this game harder than them believing and talking about their own game. At this point, it feels like it's up to us, the players. Not True Strike, but hey, we're there to help. But like the players, it's going to be word of mouth and things like that. And I just don't like that. Like, I need it. I need it to be scream from the rooftops for all of May. Just give me May. Spencer Stark, I know you watch these sometimes. Hi, I really appreciate you. If we could get a little PDF dropped a couple weeks early, we'll make so much content for you. I don't need money. I just need a PDF. We already bought the game. Let me make content early. Also, please shout from the rooftops all of May that this game is coming out.
Yeah, I mean, even where we're at, I said this like a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I think we were talking about it with our little group. And I said very confidently, and I still believe it, that Daggerheart is poised, in my eye, to take over as far as my mainstay TTRPG.
Right, absolutely,
and it is
absolutely,
and it's poised for that. It looks that good, and it seems what we've played that good. And even with the little amount of hype that we've got, I am still very hyped for it, and I still have extremely high hopes for it. I just think it could be even higher, and there could be more people like me if there was a little bit more energy put behind it.
Yeah,
because as far as getting people hyped,
at the end of the day, you and I could love this game as much as we end up loving it. It could be our favorite game ever. We could end up in a world where we are playing Daggerheart 1E with no expansions or supplementary material other than, fan made for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, for like
because
all
they
of our
sell it
career.
to thousands of people.
Yeah.
And maybe that's it. When it could be hundreds of thousands of people, which is a big difference.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to not be a reflection of the quality of the game. Like, because I believe this game's gonna be great. If the game comes out and it's not great, it's not what we were expecting, I'm gonna be very sad. Because the playtest was amazing. And I just fully expect this to triple down on what the playtest was giving us. But hypothetically, it comes out, it's bad. Okay. It comes out and it kind of whimpers. We enjoy what we enjoy. We'll still probably play the heck out of it because it's just the kind of game we're looking for.
Yeah, it's exactly what I wanted.
It's nailing what we go to other systems for, but better. So great for us. If they don't get the fan base of tons of people that are going to start coming to this game, then if the money's not there, they're not going to keep making the thing. That's not how business works.
Yeah.
So if it comes down at the end of the day, not how many people ordered the collector's edition, but how many people buy the game in general, I don't know. I want to see numbers. I want to see things. I want to see movement. Shout! Spencer Stark, shout!
Yeah, I want to see some hype. And
Matt, everyone.
I really want to see the next campaign.
Humblewood is obviously, in my brain, I was like, oh, maybe Humblewood. No, because it's going to be D&D. It's Humblewood's a 5th edition game.
Humblewood's a 5th edition game. No, I want the next campaign to be in Daggerheart. I really wanted the most recent one-shots to be in, or not one-shots, but small episodes to be in Daggerheart. I want to see more Daggerheart.
We know we're getting a Daggerheart game from them at Gen Con.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something. We've got that. At least that's locked in.
That's locked in. What more is it, though?
Our hope is that is the start of the new campaign.
That
the timeline matches
would be amazing.
Because 3 is wrapped up. That gives them months of prep and time to get ready for this new system. It has got to be funny for Matt, though, right? Like, on one hand, he's helping to create this system, so he's going to have like a inherent knowledge of it. But I wonder how often wires get crossed from the different variations he's had to run, and versus like decades of D&D
that you have to
and you have to yes, exactly.
Yeah,
it's always funny catching their like little one shots and things, and like catching rules that I'm like, wait a minute. Liam just did a thing that's not okay, and Matt didn't call him on it. Hey, Matt, what the heck? But like, I'm over screaming across my phone I say screaming, I'm not screaming. I'm just like, haha, it's funny to me. I like catching things that Matt doesn't catch. It makes me feel good about myself. But I, fully expect everyone to learn that game. Obviously, Liam's not doing something incorrectly on purpose. He doesn't fully know the system. Neither does Matt. Though I assume he knows it probably gosh dang better than anyone else that isn't directly like working on this game every dang day.
Yeah.
I hope we know it pretty dang well pretty soon.
Yeah.
Give it a month.
Yeah.
Do you think, this is one of the last things, I know we're getting long. Do you think the early release in Australia is going to hurt or help sales?
I don't think it's going to hurt. I think it can really only help sales right now.
You don't think it's going to dampen hype?
So here's the thing.
Because you can no longer be one of the first people to have this game.
Yes, no, you can no longer be one of the first, unless you're in Australia. Congratulations, you are. So here's the thing. This whole release in Australia did something very important that we've been talking about for the last 15 to 20 minutes. And that is, it put Daggerheart back at the top of the news cycle.
Which is so funny, but true.
And that is a positive.
Yeah.
And it did it in such a way that I don't think it's going to hurt them. Because like I said in the beginning, that it couldn't have happened to a nicer group of people.
All press, good press.
And all press, good press. And I think that I think it's going to be a net positive for them. I think it was a sad thing. It always,
for sure,
sucks to have something that you work on and you have a date in mind and then it gets broken. And it probably was disheartening. But again, I think it did something positive in the fact that it brought Daggerheart back to the top of the news cycle, even if it's in a quote unquote negative light.
Yeah, it's just getting across people's news feeds again.
Exactly. It's in the news feeds again, which is more than I can say for it for the weeks leading up to this quote unquote disaster.
Yeah.
Which I think that it can only be a net positive for them at this point. And I don't think it's going to hurt. I think it's good because it's in minds again. And also, I do think that We are going to get some Australian influencers and content creators that are going to create some content.
Oh,
for
I
it
hope so.
That is going to be day one content, which
Yeah.
again is going to push it to the top of the news cycle. Algorithm's going to push that up to the top, and it's going to get more people talking about the game. So I think that in the end, this was probably not a bad thing, so to speak.
Yeah. I think I agree 90% with that. The only thing that like it sucks that the positive spin of it gets it back in the news cycle isn't just that it is in the news cycle because we're at like the month lead up.
Yeah.
Like it should just be at the top of the news cycle as far as tabletop gaming goes in general right now.
Yeah.
And instead we're only hearing about it because there was a mistake.
Yes, which is why I said it's
something.
kind of it's a silver lining.
It's something.
It's a good thing because for better or for worse, we haven't been seeing the praise of Daggerheart being sung or like the hype train being pushed.
Because during the playtest, every single month we were talking about this game and the new changes, and Matt and Spencer were out there talking about it, and I was so excited. And then they're like, all right, cool, we're gonna do this Christmas one shot, and don't you worry, we're gonna be talking about more like new like official ruling things on the months ahead leading up. I thought January, February, March, April, we were going to be getting these like 10, 15 minute talks, 30-minute talks about the final version of how some of the mechanics ended up shaping out. And maybe in the weeks ahead, we will get some. And I get you don't want to give away so much that you don't even need to buy the book, but like all the playtest material's out there anyway.
Yeah.
Like if someone just wants to throw it together, they can. If they don't, just where's it been?
I think it's been, and we'll try and keep this quick so we're getting long, is that I think it comes down to the scale of things. And I think that they are getting so close to a release, and this is arguably going to be the biggest release in their careers.
Totally.
Right? And I don't think that they necessarily...
You mean Darrington Press is a company,
Darrington
right?
Press, yes.
Okay.
I don't think that they necessarily have either the resources or the foreknowledge to be able to say, okay, we need to balance between strapping in and getting it done and getting across the finish line while still engaging with the audience in a way that keeps the hype train going. And they maybe don't have the resources that other companies do to be able to do that. So the only thing that they know to do is to strap in and get it done to make sure that they can cross that finish line. And I think that they may have moved their focus to just making sure that they're going to release a product that they're proud of.
Oh, I hope so. Yeah, I hope
and that
they have no regrets.
And that the idea of the hype just kind of maybe just fell to the wayside a little bit, and they lost sight of that. And I think that's why we didn't get it.
And I think this is where Critical Role, as the partnership of Critical Role Darrington Press, should have picked this up a little bit. And I understand they've got sponsored agreements and stuff like that. And is it Thursday yet? Because they're putting out their Thursday releases. But come on, they're doing like Ubisoft games, and they've got this Humblewood thing coming up. And I get they finished Campaign 3, but guess what? Campaign 3 finished. Your game, Menagerie 4. Like, come on, give us something. And just even if you had Matt and Marisha get together and make a video talking about some of their favorite things coming to Daggerheart, and let Spencer Stark and the other designers just set on what they're doing. They've got the final book. They could do a deep dive on the GM screen. Just have Matt put that out would do numbers, right? Like, have Ashley Johnson do a breakdown of the special edition in the box, especially now that it's out there anyway. Go through and like open up, the magnetic cover and everything, and pop everything out and look at little crystals and tokens and everything. There's just things that like the Critical Role team themselves could break apart and make. That I'm just disappointed we haven't seen that yet. But maybe that's part of the cycle going to be coming up. We will see. We're running out of days, so
getting close.
Yeah. All in all, I'm though it may not seem like it, I'm so stoked for this game.
Oh, absolutely.
I am more excited for this game than any future release of any other tabletop in the future currently. Maybe down the road, maybe that'll flip. But as far as now comes, D&D's got a new starter set and some Fendelver stuff, or not Fendelver, Sword Coast stuff, whatever. Cool. Neat. Faerun. It'll come. It's all the same.
It's all the same.
It's all in there. So yeah, they've got things coming out. Other systems got things coming out. It's all Daggerheart to me, man.
Yeah.
I could just, the rest of it just doesn't matter once this book's out because, man, we are going to be just dissecting this book.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to finish Curse of Strahd so we can be done with D&D for the rest of our lives. No.
We're still on the hype train. We just need more people to get on this train with us.
It's funny too because I think
people got off on Christmas.
Yeah.
At the last.
God, that was such a good game too.
So many people got off of the hype train.
I can't wait.
We stayed on the train.
Yeah.
Some people got off the train. We need people to get on.
No one got back on.
They need to stop the train for just a second. Get more people on it.
Yeah.
It's getting lonely up here.
Yeah. So while we're at this stop, if any of you would like to join the hype train for Daggerheart, let us know down in the comments if you're on Spotify or YouTube. If you're anywhere else, hey, podcast services, 5-star, super appreciated. If you're on YouTube, just in general, like, subscribe, positive affirmations help keep the lanterns lit. Like I said, Spencer Sark, if you're watching this, thanks, man. You're doing great. Sorry that I'm bashing on your game and how you guys are doing things. I'm genuinely very excited, and I can't wait. But all the criticism is from a loving position of I want this to be the best release possible.
Yes.
So thank you. Thank you to the designers of this game. Thank you to Critical Role and Daring to Press. Thank you to all of you for listening and watching and everything else. And thank you, Richard, for joining me on another hour-long-ish episode of True Strike. Speaking of True Strike, my name has been Tyler.
And I've been Richard.
And we have been
True Strike.
See ya!
Bye.
Hey, adventurers. Thanks again for joining us today. So please be sure to give us a follow on your favorite podcasting platforms and YouTube. If there's any questions you'd like to write into the show, you can hit us up on Threads, Blue Sky, or Instagram. New episodes release every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for listening to True Strike.